Welcome back to the City of Palms podcast. Thank you for watching, viewing, and subscribing. Episode 63.
We've known this man since we were in high school.
This is
our high school teacher,
This is our true.
William
This
Guarno.
is true. Yep.
And you may notice Danny and I are both wearing some new merch. We got a lot of stuff to talk about, don't we? We have quite a few things on the notes.
We do. Just to address though, you kind of like ran by the shirt thing. Shirts are for sale. If you do want them. If you're listening to this and you want a shirt, hit my line, or you can hit City of Palms Instagram. My personal DM on Instagram. That's like the best way to get a hold of us. But yeah.
And you'll be able to see better pictures of them on the actual Instagram. T-shirts for sale now. Woo!
Brian's excited.
I know I am.
All right. So yeah, thanks man for coming on. This is like he was saying, been long awaited. So yeah.
I'm honored. This is great. I'm excited. Thank
That's
you.
been nice.
So do we start with teaching? Him as our teacher?
Well, where are you from first off?
Sure. Great question. I was born in Orlando, Florida.
Word.
I'm a Florida native, if you will, but my parents were in the military. So I grew up actually traveling around growing up. So I spent a couple years in Florida, a couple years in North South Carolina, spent a couple years in Italy, actually. That's where I really got into skating when I was 14 years old. And I made it back to the States. And what brought me down to this area, actually, is I went to Ave Maria University over by Immokalee. So that's what brought me to Southwest Florida. More familiar with the Naples, Immokalee area for a very long time, from 2006 to 10 or 12. And then I met my wife in 13, and I moved to Cape Coral. So Cape Coral, Fort Myers is more my stomping grounds nowadays, but pretty familiar with all everything in between Naples, Ave Maria.
Sick.
So yeah.
So where in Italy though?
Sure. So Naples, Italy. It's crazy we're talking about skateboarding because I was my first time ever riding a skateboard. I still have. It's so crazy we're talking about this. Nothing's a coincidence. I had just came across my original board. It was a Rad Robo Veriflex, like just an old school, just the one, like flat on the one end and then curved to the other end with a kick tail. And I remember riding that thing, not really ever thinking it would ever lead to anything. You know, at 6 years old, you're not thinking, oh man, when I'm 15, when I'm 20, when I'm 30, am I going to be riding this thing? So Naples, Italy. So Naples is south of Rome. It's not really known for anything other than food and the scenery, but the city itself is kind of trashy. It's like a New York City kind of. It's hustle bustle. But fast forward 3 years, we went back there, Sicily this time, so the island underneath, and that's when I remember getting really into skating. I was in high school at that point. Some of the guys I played soccer with, they were really big into skating. I'm like, man, I want to learn. I want to really get into this. And so this is when I learned a lot of the flatland tricks that I still use nowadays, the boneless ones I was pulling out last week. We didn't get into street plants or anything else, but I'll have to pull them out next time. But yeah, I just really developed. I remember taking videos of myself ollieing and like learning the basics of the fundamentals of tricks and board sliding. And there was and actually dropping in for the first time also in Sicily. There was a mini ramp out in the city, in the middle of the city. There's all these little parks for playing soccer. All the kids were playing around, and I'm over here by myself, falling on my face 100 million times.
That's one of the best feelings to get it.
Before I finally landed, oh my gosh, I know. And also 6 feet seems like freaking 20 feet when you're starting, but it's like, come on, 6 feet,
Mm-hmm.
So I remember watching guys kill out. I'm like, man, blunts to fakies and airs. I'm like, oh my gosh, like these guys are really good.
So how'd you get your first skateboard? Was that like a gift from your parents or something?
Oh, good question. Yeah, I think it was actually. Because at that time, 6, 7, I'm not thinking like, oh, buy me this skateboard. I think it was a gift initially. But when I went to Italy the second time, I do remember buying my own and really progressing. I went from we didn't have a Walmart over there. We had it's called the NES Exchange, Navy Exchange. Basically, you just kind of it's like a Walmart, if you will, for Navy military personnel. But at that point, I broke through those so quickly. Like Mongoose skateboards, went through so many of those. So the quality wasn't great. So I upgraded into, got a couple of the Bob Burnquist's, the Firms and Black Labels, and Jamie Thomas's Zero boards. I went through a couple different ones. Yeah. But yeah, I remember breaking them. Like that's another thing. I was afraid to do lip slides last week, so I remember distinctly practicing lip slides on this rail that I had. And I just snapped it in half, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh,
that was a board breaker there.
I am tall, and I guess I got some weight to me. But shoot, I got to distribute it differently. But yeah, I remember being kind of freaked out to do lip slides ever since. I'm like, well, I don't want to break another board. I can't afford to spend another $60-$70 on a board.
Yeah,
right.
So yeah, that's kind of my skating journey. And then seriously was into it in that second time. I mean, I was skating every day, hours and hours, skating with my friends when I could, but I really just enjoyed the creativity aspect of it. Like, there's no boundary, there's no rule. I mean, of course, you have standards on TV or in magazines that you're seeing people do, but I loved the creative outlet to be able to do whatever you wanted, and there was no right or wrong way to do it. It's just what you want. And I even, frankly, watched some things on TV like, whoa, you can do that? And you just would try it, and it's like, wow, this is cool. It's something I've never seen anyone do, but I just did it for the first time. I saw someone do it 20, 30 years ago. So I just loved the creative outlet of it, and it was something that always made me happy. Maybe if I was ever stressed out, I'd just go for a skate, and practice and learn something new. But going back to what you just mentioned a moment ago, Brian, about that initial conversation at Starbucks, something that stuck out to me even then was just the persistence. As you were sharing with me some of the struggles, being up in Pennsylvania, kind of being on your own for a bit, and the injury. So it was just really cool to hear throughout everything that's gone on. I mean, just smiling, pushing forward, working hard, like not taking anything for granted. Even the rehab you've done recently, which is so like mind blowing. It's awesome. Really cool to see that.
Thank you. Yeah, and skateboarding's been there through all of it. Through every stage of my life, in some way, shape, or form, skating's been there.
So Ave Maria, you went there strictly for college.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
This word. So you were going to be a teacher?
It's funny. So I know that's part of our topic today. So teaching has always been in the back of my mind. Ever since I was younger. Maybe not teaching per se as a passion or a career, but I always wanted to help people, and that's something. Nothing is a coincidence. Everything I've done in my life up to this point has always been about serving others and helping other people. I mean, not everyone has that gift or that desire, but for me, for whatever reason, I've always wanted to just give back. Like, I feel like we're all blessed and we're all given so much. It's like, if we can do a little bit here and there, right? That goes a long way. Like, I know Brian's big on supporting your local whatever charity or helping out people who need help. This is how the world moves more smoothly if we all help each other out. Because we all have our story, we all have our crosses, we all have our struggles. But if we know that we're all in this together, it just makes it all that much easier. So I think getting into teaching is a funny question, because when I first met my wife, she was like, "You don't want to be a teacher." I was like, "What?" It's like, "Yeah, it's not what you think it is." I'm like, "Okay." Challenge accepted is what I thought in my head. Like, yeah, I'm gonna show you. I'm like, yeah. But word to the wise, don't ever argue with a woman. Women are really smart, guys.
Was she a teacher?
She's a teacher to this day currently. Yeah, so she actually knew when she was 5 years old, like, I want to be a teacher since I was 5, and so she went to school for all that. Like, that's always been in her mind. For me, I'm a very flighty, like, whatever kind of comes up kind of person. So I'm always go with the flow. Whatever life's kind of throwing at me, okay, let's just roll with it. See where this
I even
goes.
remember in high school, you were not only the high school science teacher, but you had a side job at Banana Republic, or...
Very good, yeah.
Wow.
That was my wardrobe. Yeah, that's how I got the wardrobe.
That's how you were dripped up in high school?
Yep.
Yeah, dude.
Because I noticed, you were always, you were fly. I was like, how does this teacher have like swag?
You made me want to wear bow ties, no lie.
Yeah, I should have to wear it next time around. But no, yeah. So I Ave Maria got me here. Yeah, so teaching. Yeah, my wife really discouraged me. She's like, it's not what you think it's gonna be. But I had this passion of just teaching the youth. Like, I just love sharing my experiences, even though I'm not much older than you guys. But at the time, I didn't want to. It's funny. I never revealed my age as a teacher, because I'm like, I don't want them to realize, like, but I have siblings that your ages. It's like, it's kind of weird to think about that at the time, but whatever. So yeah, I've always thought of the idea. Actually, before teaching, I really considered being a missionary. I had a couple opportunities there. They fell through, and I thought, okay, well, someone's telling me I should do something different, and so it led me to teaching, and I don't regret it at all. I think it was a great opportunity to, like I said, give back and really mentor. Because I think a lot of the youth nowadays, they're just searching for things. They're searching for themselves. They're searching for meaning and for passion and their purpose, right? So I think for me, my style was always, how can I help you? Maybe it wasn't about science necessarily. That was my passion of subject of choice. But, of course, doing well, succeeding as a student was important. But if I could help you overcome some challenge outside of school, if I could help you, nail that job interview, if I could help you teach you a lesson that maybe you're not getting at home, maybe you don't have the structured family at home, maybe you don't have parents that are supportive or they're not even in the picture. So I was always wanted to help in some capacity. if I was able to. But of course, I've had those boundaries, and there was the professionalism and the student boundary. I was always careful not to get too close, but within reason, and so yeah, I mean, teaching was great. I learned a lot about the system, which I know we're going to get into in a little bit. And my wife was absolutely right. I mean, I should have listened, honestly, but at the same time, I learned the lesson, and it wasn't a coincidence that I got into that. It really wasn't, because it's brought me to where I am today. But yeah, teaching is not as what people think, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean it's more so management. Like a lot of what teachers do nowadays, it's teaching's a small part of the job. A larger portion is managing, like teaching. Because, I mean, you guys were great. I mean, I don't remember having any qualms. I mean, very respectful guys, hard workers, but some students didn't have that background, didn't have the discipline. So then you're having to teach, okay, this is how you come in my classroom. This is how you greet each other. This is how you talk in my room. I don't want to hear any curse words, We're going to love each other. We're going to respect each other. But it doesn't matter where you come from, what you believe in, what you look like, doesn't matter. We're all equal here, right? So my big thing was never wanted to yell at anybody. I wanted to make sure we talked as, we're person to person. Yeah, I'm a teacher, you're a student, but I'm no better than you are. You're teaching me stuff as much as I'm teaching you, right? So I learned a lot. I learned a lot from students in that regard. And yes, I'm kind of rambling here, but so yeah, teaching, that's kind of what got me into it. And I don't have any regrets. I've touched a lot of lives, and reconnecting with, like, again, Brian and Danny now. This has been wonderful to hear you guys and what you guys are doing, and how you're killing it, not just in skateboarding, but in your own businesses. And Danny's married now, and this is like really cool stuff to see the progression.
Yeah, it's all moving forward. So I feel like as a public school teacher, that management aspect of it, and also not only that, but one thing, because I aspired to be a teacher, still kind of do. It's in the back of my brain, but the whole aspect of like standardized testing and stuff like that's something I always worried, because like going to school to be a teacher, I always learned about like building lesson plans and like how to test the most efficient way, the most effective way, and like how to. And and these like teaching sorts of tools, but I feel like once you actually jump into it, there's all the things that like college didn't teach me about, like the standardized testing that you have to make sure they pass, and if they don't pass, like I notice it because when I would shadow public school teachers at like Estero or whatever, I would notice that's what a big portion of the classes were, is like, here's how they want you to answer these questions, here's the kinds of, and like I'm saying this to you because the ACE testing, I really really liked the Cambridge program, and I'm not saying that was like one of these issues with the public school system, but that's an example of like a lot of our classwork was learning how we're going to have to take these tests instead of like learning things. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. And I agree. I think, and this is something I think all teachers struggle with, to be completely honest. And I know it's a hard solution to come up with, because, I mean, personally, I think we should individualize the testing, and like, because some people, let's be honest, some people are more visual learners, some people are more auditory learners, some people could show you the concept better than they can explain it or write about it. So, do I think that should be in effect? Of course, I think we should all have options to show our knowledge and to demonstrate proficiency in that particular standard or subject. But unfortunately, time, energy, funding, I mean, there's just a lot of things that don't work out so nicely. So standardized testing, I know it's just a quick and easy way to put everybody in that pool and just test everyone standardly, but it's ironic though, because everyone's so different. So to put everyone in this group of saying, okay, we're all going to take it the same way, doesn't really work out so well. And I agree with what you're saying, Brian. I mean, it's when you get into life, as you guys, you're both living in the world. I mean, you're not taking any big tests. Like, you're not taking you might have to take a construction certification to be a construction worker. You might have to take some type of proficiency test to be actually not necessarily to be a cashier or a stock clerk in Aldi, or associate. I mean, some jobs require some type of testing or some type of certification, but for the most part, it's, what do you know? Like, what can you show me? What can you learn quickly? Can I teach you a skill, and can you retain that skill? Yeah. So testing it can be helpful depending on what avenue you're pursuing, but ultimately it's really, what drives you, what are the things you want to accomplish, and I don't know, unfortunately there's a lot of disconnect, right? So you're tested and you're taught that all through high school, and you get to the real world, and it's like, well, I've been practicing all these skills, how come I'm not using them now? Yeah. And I agree, some of the practical things that you don't learn in school, like, I mean, budgeting and saving for a rainy day.
Yeah,
or
taxes in general.
Yeah, I mean, this is all. I think there was I can't remember. I think math for college right now. There was a class I remember someone, or no. One of the teachers, Mr. Lauber, remember him? Yeah. Younger guy. I remember him teaching on the side. Like, it wasn't part of the curriculum, but he'd be like, "Hey, this is how credit card works. This is how interest works. This is
That's
how
cool.
debt happens.
That's
so
cool.
make sure you guys just the basic stuff, basic principles. But it's stuff that we should know.
Mm-hmm.
But why aren't we being taught that? You know,
Yeah.
it would be helpful. Like real world skills.
Yeah.
Stuff you're actually going to use.
And those were, and from my experience, those were the teachers, the ones who did kind of like take that extra step to not only teach like whatever their coursework was, but also give those little extra tidbits, whether it's like life advice or a separate whole thing where it's like, here's how a credit card and like how interest works and this and that. Like those were the things that really stuck in my brain rather than like the Pythagorean theorem and these things that were on the written exams and whatnot, which is weird because how many times throughout all your math classes do you learn about all these different formulas and stuff, and then by the end of it you don't remember because you don't use it all the time. You just learn one time about something about getting a credit card or something, and then you use that so often in your actual life that it sticks with you.
Right. A good example, if I just piggyback on that idea, Brian. So you wouldn't know by looking at me, but I do speak Spanish, not fluently but proficiently, and I've learned a lot, and I attribute that through teaching actually, because teaching, I taught a lot of, students from all over the place, Mexico, Guatemala, Ecuador, Colombia, you name it. And so I didn't have to, but that's part of my nature. And living in Italy, I learned Italian at a young age. And so I took my Italian passion, turned it into Spanish in high school, and then I developed it over teaching. So teaching taught me how to speak Spanish, and jumping on the concept you just brought up, Brian, is through repetition and time, every day you're using it. Skating's the same way. Every day you skate, you get better. You learn something new, you get more confident, you build muscle memory. It's the same thing. So we really need to do a better job. And again, I think it's such a hard solution. Like, where do you start and how does it begin? And it's got to be a uniform thing. It can't just be just Florida doing it. It's got to be the whole country adopting this new model of education. So it'd be a hard thing to change. But at the same time, I agree. I think wholeheartedly there needs to be some type of fluidity with the practical things you're going to need in life, combined with the things you might need to know to pass the test or to know in general. I mean, I tried really hard, and I agree. I was guilty of teaching to the tests, because that's how especially the biology EOC, the biology courses I taught, and the ACE exam. We need to prepare you for them. But at the same time, I think the ACE program was great because it gave you flexibility to go outside and take a little time to go over an extra concept or do a lab that maybe wasn't specifically around a standard, but it taught you something that maybe was interesting or something that's going to stick with you. So, yeah, I mean, I don't pretend to know the solution to that, but I think having teachers who empathize and say, hey, look, yes, you should know this for the exam, but at the same time, or maybe relating it. That's something I used to do too. If trying to relate, because if I had a student who had a hard time understanding a concept or were struggling, I would say, okay, what do you like to do? Like, what drives you? Or whatever, build a business or music or cars. Okay, cool. Apply that to this. So music's not always going to be glamorous. Skateboarding. Let's talk about skateboarding, right? So skateboarding isn't always glamorous and great, right? Maybe there's days you just can't get anything right, and you're falling left and right, and you're frustrated, and you're mad, and you're like, oh. Other days, though, you're landing everything. You feel great on top of the world. You just did something you've never done before, and you're just like, yeah. So it's one of those things where you kind of have to, you're progressing each day, and you're learning, you're building. So applying it to something you like, applying the studies, which may not always be so fun, applying it to something that you do like, and realize that even though you love skateboarding, there's times you don't like it. You love someone, at times you don't like that person, right? But you still love them, right? So it's just balancing the emotions with the logic. I think is huge. We're getting really deep into philosophy now.
I love it.
But yeah, so I just think realizing that the end goal is to succeed in life, right? It's not about passing the test. It's not. I mean, graduation is great, and that's important. So you have a piece of paper that says, "Hey, I accomplished something. Hire me because I can do something." Right? It's basically the credentials for a diploma. But yeah, it's really how well you can adapt to the world. I feel like is what's really most important when you leave school. So those are the people that succeed and crush it. Those are the difference between those people who crush it and those people who struggle because they haven't learned how to survive with the skills that they have or don't have.
Yeah, that's real for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
And I will say because I loved, I almost feel fortunate that I was in the Cambridge program through high school because I feel like my whole curriculum was way different than other high school students because the way the way the testing was so much different, and the way the courses were so much different, and they did have like flexibility the way that they would grade the exam, but what I always tell people is that the greatest thing that I learned wasn't about everything marine science that I learned in the ACE marine science class. It was more so like I learned how to like use the information given to me and like you said, adapt, and so that at the end of the year I had a passing grade at the end of that test. Like I used all of that, and then nowadays with, you know, even Aldi, the NLU tests and all this stuff you have to like learn to be a good employee, right. Even though it is just like these random numbers that once you're done with Aldi, you're never going to remember those numbers. But to be able to have the like persistence to practice it and review it and study it so that whenever you are in that hands-on moment where you see a pineapple and you're like, what's the number? You know what I mean?
Right.
So then you can be the one that and you're the most efficient employee.
1,000 count.
That's 1,000 items per hour. Did you know he worked at Aldi?
No.
Yeah.
Wow. Briefly, yeah. Actually, again, nothing's a coincidence. When I was, you know, I'm building a business right now. So with anything new, right? Like even with the podcast or, you know, Aldi, there's a little bit of a growth curve and a little bit of a learning curve. You have to learn, you have to adapt and succeed. So the first couple of years are challenging. So I was working part-time in a restaurant and they closed for obvious reasons. And so I was like, hey, Brian, is Aldi hiring? And he's like, oh yeah, I'll put you in touch with my regional guy, Tommy Kelly. Yeah, I'll take care of you. And next thing you know, I'm working in Fort Myers, you know? So it's,
nice.
did that for a couple months. I loved that. I mean, I really, again, fast-paced, helping people, learn a new skill, you know, how fast can you ring groceries? Yeah. And then what I loved about Aldi was you're doing everything. Stuck in the groceries, stuck in the meat, I mean, unloading the pallet, I mean, everything. It was cool.
It's a lot more than people think it is. Even when I first started with the company, I remember thinking like, 12 an hour, like whatever it was in Pennsylvania. I'm like, 12 an hour for a grocery store job? I'll sit at a cash register for 12 an hour. But then when I realized it was even different back then. Back then it was even like now they have kind of like part-time positions and stuff. But back then it was, you're either a manager or you're an associate. And that's it.
Oh, wow.
You do everything. Yeah, all the time.
Holy smokes.
How long have we been going, Danny? Should we?
It's about break time for sure.
Take a break real quick?
Yeah.
All right. If you don't want to watch the ads, you can click over to the Instagram and check out the shirts and more content, highlight clips if you don't have an hour to spare for the podcast. Enjoy the break. We'll be right back.
Have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? When I was trying to get this podcast off the ground, I had a lot of questions. How do I record an episode? How do I get my show into all the apps people like to listen? How do I make money from my podcast? The answer to every one of these questions is really simple. Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. Best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. And now, Anchor can match you with great sponsors who want to advertise on your podcast. That means you can get paid to podcast right away. In fact, that's what I'm doing by reading this ad. And let me tell you guys a little bit about Anchor. So, like I said, it's a one-stop shop, distributing, you put your podcast on. It couldn't be easier to use. My brother and I, when we started this podcast, we're looking around for a website. Where do we get our podcast up and running? How do we get it? Literally those exact questions. How do we get it on iTunes? How do we get it on Spotify? And I was trying to do that stuff by myself. And that's when I started looking up. And there's other ones you can use like J-Pod and all that. But let me tell you, Anchor, nobody's going to do it as great as Anchor. And most of all, it's free. So that's what you always do, man. That's what you love, is Anchor being free. So if you've always wanted to start a podcast, make money doing it, go to anchor.fm/start. That's anchor.fm/start to join me in the diverse community of podcasters already using Anchor. Once again, that's anchor.fm/start. I can't wait to hear your podcast. We're back. Hope you enjoyed the ads. Get you a Nothing is a Coincidence shirt. I don't know if that was an ad in there, but hey, we'll put it in.
We can do whatever we want.
So to bring it back, and we covered a lot in teaching in the first half, so not to get too much back into teaching because we want to progress more into like the business side of things. But I do have a question, and it is that I had you my freshman year for integrated science, which, man, I think they put me in there because I was just fucking around in middle school, you know? Because it was you that moved me up to taking biology my sophomore year. So thank you for that. But then you also had, I don't know if it was the same year. Was it the same year that I had him, you had him? Or
I don't think so.
After?
I think year after.
So were you were you doing that the same day? I think you were. Were you had integrated science one day, which was basically like an intensive form of science, and then you went from doing like honors, like the highest of like the smarts. So it's like, so in one day, I'm wondering, were you going from teaching that, like, the lowest science to the highest science, and how was that transition?
Yeah.
Because if you didn't do it daily, you did it 1 year, because I know I had you 1 year and then he had you for...
Right. I just want to comment on that. So like when I first got into the system of schooling, I didn't really understand lower, higher, advanced, whatever. So the way I always phrase it is, science is science, right? Whether it's at lower reading level or whatever. Because integrated to me, initially I was like, well, that seems like a silly word. Integrated to me means everything's connected. So why is that a bad one? Everyone's like, no, this is the stupid science class. I'm like, no, it can't be. And so over time I learned, well, not the stupid kids, right? It's just basically the reading level was lower. So basically it was easier to understand for maybe people who weren't avid readers or had trouble with reading. So, but yeah, I think I moved you up, Danny, probably because I saw something in you that was like, well, this guy needs to be challenged. Like, I mean, I think it was either too easy or I felt like you were doing just fine. You definitely could have, not to kill yourself, but I just wanted you to be, like, I don't know, growing and not necessarily just kind of regressing, just hanging out.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Be challenged a little bit, but not like just floating by.
Yeah, I liked it.
But to answer your question, and it's cool too. It reminds me of a memory too. So my first year of teaching, I had all the low level students. I had all the rough ones. And this is probably something I probably should mention to other students, but whatever. My first year of teaching, I'll never forget. I had nightmares like many times. Not my freshmen. My freshmen were good. My sophomore class, I had a rough sophomore class. If you're listening, sophomores, you know who you are.
And wait, real quick, was this 2012?
2012, yeah.
Okay, right. That was my freshman year. So word. Yeah.
So you're like, I'm good.
Yeah.
Oh, wild. Okay.
Yeah.
But
No,
I didn't have Brian until the next year's. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, got it. I think your hair was longer at the time, right? Didn't you have more of like the Justin Bieber?
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
The Biebs look.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I remember now. But yeah, so my first year I had like the rough. I had all these rough students. I'm thinking, okay, whatever, it's cool. I could relate to a lot of them. I was bullied as a kid. I was picked on, so a lot of them I was just gravitating towards. It was fine. I had no issues. But my principal, Mr. Clover, he's like, we're bumping you up to Ace Marine Science next year. I was like, okay, cool, okay, and
word.
And I was like, wow, sweet. And I'm thinking, my second year teaching, I'm into this is a pretty heavy, subject. I mean, people you gotta pass these ICE exams. It looks school grade, and a lot of things are on your shoulders. And so, I was flattered, but I also had to learn another side of the spectrum. So now I went from kids who don't really care much about the education, and I was having them get encouraged and excited about it. Now I have to, be on guard, because now I got kids calling me out, like the Reedy twins. I mean, they're always like, hey, that doesn't say that in standard 1.569.
Oh, wow.
Like, actually it does. Look carefully and you'll see it right there. Shut down. but it's fine. I like that because it allowed me to be credible. Like, they want to make sure I'm adhering to the standards. They're calling me out. That's fine. Be respectful about it, but call me out. That's fine. Anyway, to answer your question, Danny, finally. Yeah, I think there was, the way they structured it, at least that first year teaching ACE, I do remember having all three of those preps on one day and then the other integrated science on the other day. But I'm sure maybe the year or two after, I'm sure I had a little bit of both. But you're right. So that I did have to transition from, the lower level to the higher level. But I think the reason why you're asking is probably like, how are you able to jump from one to the other within a 10-minute period? And I guess as a teacher, you learn pretty quickly to adapt. So basically, at the end of the day, like for that Ace Marine Science class, I'm teaching the same lesson 3 times in 6 hours. So basically, I'm on repeat, basically. Of course, different things happen, different questions come up, different students. So it's not exactly the same, but the way the lesson progresses, it's very similar. And so going to the next subject, like I basically have to plan in my mind on what day it was, what lesson it was, how it would progress. But of course, I was open to anything. If things wanted to go longer here, then let's go longer here. Let's see where it goes. If you're going to learn something, you want more time, then let's explore that. So I had structure, but at the same time, I had options to go whatever direction I wanted to go, or needed to go. But yeah, so it would vary. But
yeah, no, that's cool. That's cool to hear. Just because, like, from my perspective, like, yeah, I was always very observant, and I was like a quiet kid, like just kind of sitting there. I was like, why am I in this class? And knowing it was your first year teaching, I don't think I knew that at the time. Maybe I did. It doesn't play a big part, but like, I would be in that class sitting around, and all these kids are talking when you're just trying to do your job, and I'm just like, fuck, man, like, I commend you for like having the patience like you did, because you were like a good teacher. You never yelled, and everyone still like liked you, even though they weren't like, they didn't want to be there. Nobody wanted science. It was the first period of the day too, so it was rough. And like, still though, you had like, I remember the kids that like the bad kids that were talking or whatever out of turn. Like at the end of the day, I had other classes with them too, and like it was like Guarno's cool. You know, everyone was like saying like, yo, he's a good teacher. So,
but no one would ever tell you that at the class, which is something I realized. Like in the middle of it all, you're just like struggling to survive. And I apparently had a pretty good year according to my principal, but I'm sure I struggled, and I'm sure I didn't know what the heck I was doing in a lot of ways. But if it was Mr. Guarno first year to like my last year, 7th year, it would have been night and day in terms of, I mean, I was the same person, but I would have had better ways to shut that down. Like I wouldn't have allowed that to happen. 'Cause I was just trying to get through like, oh my gosh, you know, by the end of it, I learned really quickly and tactfully how to discipline, but subtly, right? I don't need to make a big deal about anybody, making fun of anybody, but hey, look, you're looking silly, this person over here. Like you're trying to impress her, but you're not impressing her. Like, come on. So it's just a way you kind of,
for sure,
you work with the class. Don't work against them. You kind of work together, and you kind of develop things. So my teaching style progressed a lot over the years, but I still retain that empathy and, you know, connection. But like I said, always very careful. I mean, to be not too close, right? Because students make up things, or maybe I'm sure stuff happens with students and teachers. But I was always careful not to get the wrong impression, right? I was there to help, I was there to be a model, I'm there to be a friend if needed to be, but I don't want to get any deeper than that. I got a family, I got my own life. I don't need to get in trouble or anything, you know.
For sure. Yeah.
So
on the teaching thing too, I just have 2 more questions. The first one, you don't have to go into detail. You can just say yes or no if you want. But is there a pay difference between like teaching the lower class opposed to teaching an ACE marine science?
No, so there wasn't. Yeah, it's basically by year. So as the years progress, you make more money as time goes on. And what's also frustrating is I don't mind sharing this. My wife, who has a master's degree, was making just a couple $1,000s more than me, coming in with no education background. So that's kind of frustrating too. And nowadays, you probably already know this, but new teachers nowadays are making substantially more than I was making just 10 years ago almost. Wow. 8 years ago, starting off. But the idea is they're losing teachers, and so the way to retain them is, or bring more is, hey, we're offering you $47,000 a year, come on and teach. And so it's like, oh shoot, why not? But what they're not realizing is over time there won't be a lot of increases in pay. So that's another frustrating thing. So mentioning the side jobs of Aldi and Banana Republic and cleaning, I mean, waiting tables. Reason being is, you know, money looks good on paper, but after the end of the day, once you pay your taxes, once you pay all the bills, you know, there's not much left over. And
and raising a family.
And you don't, like, in my 7 years of teaching, I think we only had one raise, and it was like a 0.5% raise or something silly. So it really wasn't anything great. Most companies give you, depending on performance and the company, how it's structured, you'll get a 3 or 4% raise every year, or how often as you progress and how often you do. So there's a lot of things they could do differently to support teachers, but whatever, I digress. It's tough to get into that. But yeah, anyway, I don't mind answering that. It's fine.
Okay. And then second question, one thing I always feared as I was like really aspiring to be a teacher and trying to consider all the little things I'll need to think about that I didn't before, one thing I always feared was not knowing an answer to something. Like, because I wanted to teach English, or like specifically writing. Like if I could teach writing one day, that would be like my dream job. And because I'm so passionate about it, and I don't know, you know, I'm not a master of English or master of writing or anything, but I want to continue learning forever. So, but as a teacher, you have to know what you're teaching. So I always worried, what if either, one, I learned something wrong, because the English language can be so complicated. What if I learned something incorrectly in my learning? So whenever I go to teach it, I'm actually teaching them incorrectly. Or if someone has a question and they say, hey, why is this like that? Or why is that word like this and like that? And if I don't have an answer, I'll just have to say, well, because it is. Or if there is no answer, you know, because language is tricky. Sometimes it is just like, you know, why is horrible and horrific like synonyms, but then terrible and terrific antonyms? Why is that? And I just have to say, because it is. You know, is that something you ever feared or encountered as a teacher?
Well, 2 things I want to say. So one, something that just jumped out at me that as you're saying that, Brian, being afraid to like make a mistake or being afraid to be wrong. So important. Just in general, like it's okay to make mistakes. Like it's okay to fall. It's okay to mess up, but recognize that, maybe grow from that, right? So that's something deep I just got from you were saying that. But as a teacher, you're right. You want to always look like you know what you're talking about. You're confident. You're knowledgeable. You don't want to look like a dummy or like you don't know what the heck's going on. So for the most part, I was rarely stumped in terms of like, not that students are trying to get me in trouble or like, oh, he doesn't know this, but if they had a question I had no idea, I'd be like, well, I think this is what it is, but how about this? Give me a day or 2, let me go research, I'll come back next time I see you, I'll have an answer for you. So that's usually how I alleviate it. Like I didn't take myself off the hook, but I said, hey, look, just give me a day or two. I'll look it up and I'll come back and tell you about it. So then like, okay, we'll talk about it in 2 days. And so it doesn't make me look stupid because I'll just go research. I don't know the answer right now, but I'll go find it. And if I figure it out, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I didn't think of it that way, but that makes sense. And I'll just share it with them. So it almost makes you more relatable, right? Because and I'll be personally with, I don't want to get too deep and personal, but I think it's important when people of authority, you can relate to them. Because I think sometimes you think, oh man, I'll never be like them because they're just so great or successful, whatever.
Yeah.
But we're all human at the end of the day. So realizing that we're all on the same page, we're called to learn from each other, regardless of whatever, demographic, race, religion, color, whatever. There's always something we can learn. So I think, again, something that teaching taught me was there was always something that the students were teaching me. Whether I realized it or not, I was always learning something from them. So I think when you have that relationship, and students see that, I'm sure you guys can relate, like, I never want to be better than everybody. I mean, yeah, I happen to have the knowledge. I happen to be a little older than y'all, but didn't mean I was better than you. I mean, there's the things I could teach you that maybe you wouldn't have to learn the hard way, but we all learn our own lessons in time. So anyway, I like to talk, so
yeah.
and
I feel like in those sorts of situations, retention would probably be greater. Like if some like know-it-all student says, "Hey, why is this that way?" and you don't know the answer, and you say, I actually don't know. Give me a couple days. I'll get back to you. Then if you follow up and say, "Hey guys, guess what? I learned that this is because of that, and it's actually interesting because," and then you guys it almost feels like you all learned it together. You know what I mean?
And it kind of it kind of extends that experience too, because if you want to know right then and there, which that's our culture, it's like, give me this now, right then and there. It's like, if I don't get it, it's a little frustrating, but you learn to appreciate it though, right? Like if Christmas is every day, it'd be like, okay, or Halloween, I know you guys are big on Halloween. Halloween's every day, it'd be like, oh, Halloween again, it'd be boring, right? But the fact that it comes one day a year and you're like, oh, yeah, 31st, can't wait. All the movies, costumes, like candy. It's like an anticipation. You get excited for it because it happens once a year. And the same thing with experiences. It's like you should be, I don't know, like I get it. We want things here and there, fine. But there's a beauty in waiting and having patience and anticipating that thing. Because it's when you earn it, when you finally land that trick, when you finally land that job, when you finally make that promotion, it means much more than just if you got it every day. If you landed that tray flip, fake, whatever, every day, it's like, okay, big deal. I do it every day. Like, because it's unique, and you do, oh my gosh, I landed for the first time. I want to keep that experience going. So, I don't know, rambling a little bit again, but I think it's important to, and connect with your students, connect with people, and realize that you're human. Like, not better than anybody else.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. The next set of topics, I feel like Danny has better questions than I do, because another thing we wanted to talk about is how maybe you'd be able to intro this better, but like nowadays, especially people our age and whatnot, to seek financial freedom through like, we were just talking about education and like going to your career path and end up like, raising a family and doing what you can to make a living. There's like so many other means than just like go to college, get that career, make that income, and there's your family. There's like all these other little things that I am not well read on, like stocks and like e-commerce and things like that can do significant changes in your life to get that financial freedom, to have the ability to have a savings account and like put away money for retirement and this and that. And that's something that Danny, I feel like he's more well read than I am on like and like just like the business hustle. He's much more like what would you want to talk about? What are your topics that you wrote down?
Well, yeah, like to get into it, I don't know if you're informed on like much of that at all, but I mean, I could talk to anybody about what I know, and it's just like, yeah, for like you said, like people our age are constantly wondering. I mean, basically everyone's wondering like how to get financial freedom. But I feel like to really break it down, the older generations are stuck in the just get a 9-to-5 and work that and work your way up and get that. But like the younger generations, I feel, and the older generations too, but specifically us and the younger generations are realizing that there's more internet money, like you can create, you can monetize your content, like what we're doing with this and the podcast, and a bunch of there's a bunch of YouTubers that are making money through YouTube, right. And nowadays YouTube has slowed down like the AdSense revenue. It's not necessarily the YouTube money you're getting that it was in like 2016 or 17 per se. Still good money, but still what you can create from, like he said, like even a Shopify store. That's where I could right now start a business on my computer, never touch the merchandise, but like be a business owner. And if you have the audience going into that, you're going to do well. And then stocks and all that. I mean, I could talk about.
Right. No. This is all good things to be thinking about, because I think, like one point I brought just some cheat sheets to kind of so I don't forget anything because it's all good stuff. But one thing you're hitting on there, Danny, is just being aware of what's out there. I think is the biggest thing because I'll be honest, my parents being in the military and we were constantly traveling and. My dad had some investments when he was younger, but we didn't learn about that till we were older. You know, it's like my dad bought some property in Virginia when he was in his 20s. And it's like, okay, cool. And when you got to be 50s and 60s, it's worth a lot more than it was when we bought it. But it's like, well, and even like when I was young, so before I went to college, this is like a fluke. I didn't think anything of it nowadays, but I bought some stock at Publix when I worked at Publix because you can only buy that when you're part of the company, private company. So nowadays it's grown, it's like tripled, I think, since I put it in, which is a couple thousand, it's not a lot. But I mean, the idea of putting away money now, as soon as you can, even if it's a small amount, just grows, compounds over time, especially in your 20s. You got lots of time, 20 to 60, 70, 50, 40, 50 years, a long time to work with the market and grow with it. So I would say just in general, just be curious, I guess, to learn to be wanting what's out there. And you're right, Danny, we live in a unique world where, you're not restricted by a brick and mortar, a business, plaza or a strip mall or a company. I mean, you can do whatever you want. Like you just said, you can monetize anything, right? But I think the challenge there becomes everyone's doing that. How do you break out of that? How do you become the next thing? How do you become the unique one? How do you rise above the rest of them? And so I think that's where the challenges are going to be for this generation is setting yourself apart, right? Because the YouTubers, I remember when YouTube first came out when I was in college. It was kind of the place you went to kind of relive old memories or old commercials or movie clips or movies. Even there was all full movies on there at one point, but of course YouTube has grown and they've limited certain things, and they've commercials, they got all kinds of things to do nowadays, but yeah, being able to have having a backup plan too, because I think everyone sees these people on YouTube and Snapchat and they're, oh, make all this money, I'm selling, I'm a hype beast selling all this Supreme stuff, great, but realize not everyone can do that, not everyone's going to be successful, so having some type of a backup plan. So like I like the idea of having have a job to start, kind of like I look at Brian as a good example. So Brian has a job, right? He works 9 to 5 or whatever his hours are. It varies every week. But on the side, he'll skate, he'll build his brand, he'll do his podcasts, and he'll do his artwork, and boom. And eventually, I think the goal is to hopefully transition out of reality and have more of his business and grow that baby as he grows up and has an income. So I think, speaking to people who are familiar with those avenues, again, I'm not familiar when it comes to marketing or branding or getting into the monetization of these ideas, but learning more about the structure, what's out there, how the market works, ways to save money, a budget sheet, right? These are just basic tools that we can use in our 20s, even high school, but in our 20s, to teach you how to be disciplined, right? Because that's the end of the day. I think you mentioned financial freedom. I think a lot of Americans, to be honest, the stresses that we cause ourselves is the debt we put ourselves in, right? We have credit cards. Absolutely. We just charge. Oh, wait, I got to pay interest. Oh, wait, I got to pay that back eventually. Oh, shoot. Oh, man, how am I going to do that? And then next thing you know, you got lots of debt that's hanging over your head. You're depressed. You're drinking. You're overeating. You're whatever you're doing. So it's one of those things where it's not their fault necessarily. It's just no one's educating them, right? Our parents didn't do a good job of it. Our teachers aren't doing it. Our employers aren't doing it. So who are we learning this from? So I guess transitioning to where I'm at now, I'm excited about what I'm doing now, financial advising, financial planning, is because I still see myself as a teacher. Technically, my job doesn't call me a teacher, right? It's an advisor or a salesman. But being a teacher, you're always looking to help. You're always looking to teach people what they may not know. And that's why I feel like the value I bring to the table is I'm not better than anyone else, right? I happen to take this leap of faith into building this business, but it's given me the freedom to talk to whoever I want to talk to, whoever I think needs help or maybe curious to learn more, and then talking to them. That's the end of the day, all it is. There's no charge to talk. It's just really, how can we help you? This is the things we can help you with. We talk to you about what's going on and what are the goals and objectives you have for the short term, long term. Okay, cool. We'll put together some ideas, put together a plan for you, and just make some recommendations. And that's the end of the day, all it is. Pretty painless, but yeah, there's so many advisors that aren't maybe doing the right way, doing it the way they should be, and so it's just important to have the relationship is the end of the day. Is the big thing, having that relationship. But anyway, yes. To answer your question, there's a lot we can get into, but I'd say at the very basics, just speak to someone that you trust or do research. Research what the companies are out there, and ask questions is huge, right? In education, especially asking questions shows that you're engaged, you're curious, you want to know more, you're hungry for the knowledge. And you'll learn it. The more you ask, the more you talk, the more you observe, you're going to see, see things. And even like you mentioned the market, Danny. So the market, we've seen it do crazy things lately. Right, the coronavirus. But look where it is now, right? So it's recovered. It's back to kind of where it was before this all happened, and no one really thinks about it. Whatever, no big deal. But in the meantime, if you had investments on the ride, I mean, you saw it go down, you saw it recover. But you have to figure, what if someone's retirement? What if someone's retiring at this point? 2020, they're retiring. They've worked 50 years, 60 years, now they're retiring. Oh shoot, there's my whole life savings riding on that roller coaster. So having your assets, having your investments diversified, having different places is important too. So that way it's not all in the taxable environment, not all in the market, not all in the investment market. You have different things in different places.
Yeah. So I think the listeners, if I'm curious. I think the listeners are probably curious too. If they're watching or listening to this, like, can we touch on what it is more you do because you touched a little bit on how you said you're a financial advisor or a salesperson for that. Like, is that your own thing that you've started, or are you working for a company?
Right. So yeah, it's my own business. I'm what's called a statutory employee. So I have I'm my own CEO, but I work with a company called Northwestern Mutual. So they're based out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And they've been around for a long time. You can look them up, 160 years.
So that's like a brokerage itself?
Correct.
And you're linked with them? Word.
Correct. Yep. So it's not, so when I say this, I want to be careful because, right, it's my own business, but it's not like just me like in the back of my truck,
Absolutely.
just, hey, let's talk about product, right? I mean, I have a backing of a company that's been around for a very long time, always been doing great things and for the country, which is helpful, right? Because when you have someone when you have credibility, it's like, oh, okay, it's not just him doing shady stuff. I don't know what he's doing. It's it's all regulated. It's all kosher. It's all legit, and we're called fiduciaries. Fiduciary is a fancy word for just always doing what's right for the client, right? So, again, the business I'm in is it's technical, and there's been a lot of deceit and wrongdoing to people over the years. That's why there's all these rules and regulations. But as a fiduciary, you're always doing what's best for the client. Right? You're always doing what's best for that person. If it makes them better off financially, then that's good. Then we recommend it. Then it's fine, right? But if it benefits us only, not you, then you're getting into weird territory. You shouldn't be in that. You shouldn't be doing that, right?
Yeah.
So, so that's the company that I represent. Mm-hmm.
Word. That's cool. That's good to hear. Actually, great to hear. I'll have okay. So for me personally, I've always been someone that has never really fully invested into like a 401k or like something like that, but I've always like tried to get really like I know that I'm going to do it one day and probably one day soon, but I've always really tried to wrap my head around investments and what I can do to the computer's locked. What I can do to like get more educated on that. So a little bit after I got out of high school, I like made a little bit of money off cryptocurrency. Thought that was really cool. So moved from Coinbase to Robinhood and started looking into Robinhood, and like I was just doing it on my own. I really needed like more friends or people around me that like knew what they were doing, because I was just like looking up YouTube videos or trying to find people on Instagram that were big into it and like just following them, talking with them, and like seeing what the market is going to do or seeing what they think it's going to do and trying to get insight, whatever, and trying to know when to buy, when to sell. And there's actually a couple people that I've linked up with that like are educated in and are willing to work with it. But with Robinhood, like with everything now, like Robinhood, I don't know if you use any of that on your personal thing, but Robinhood is like is gone to shit now with the percentaging that they're taking and like what basically so Robinhood, so everyone's moved to another thing. And so me, like I said, I'm just kind of like try to stay as educated as I can, but never really been fully in. So like once Robinhood canceled out, I'm kind of like whatever. But like what's really caught my eye is real estate. Everyone is saying like real estate, and there's so many different forms of investing when it comes to real estate. And like from what I've seen, like maybe you would have better knowledge, but like for someone my age, I think it would be wise to like invest in like a REIT, which is like a form of where you're not buying a whole, you're not buying a whole like real estate house. You're not buying a whole house and selling it. You're buying like a stock of that house. So if you bought this house at $180,000, if you bought a REIT in it, whatever I don't know if I'm saying that right either. I don't know if it's like RET. I don't know if I'm like, I don't know, I don't know if they say the word and I'm just like REIT, and anyone who knows is like, dude, stop. But But yeah, I don't know if if you put a percentage of money in that, if it would grow. And so I'm just looking like, I don't know. I want to invest because I want, at the end of the day, I have a 9 to 5, and like, I mean, it's always going to be there, the skills I've had that can always do that. But like, it kills me that in the 8 hours that I'm working for the 9 to 5, I don't have another thing working. You know what I mean? I like my money to be in something. And
I know. Danny, Brian's mentioned you're in construction. Does the company you work for, do they offer any type of profit matching company program, 401k or anything like that? Any type of retirement fund?
This one doesn't. Yeah, this was kind of just getting my foot in the door to a construction company. I don't know if it's something I'd like to do for long, but if I have to end up doing it for much longer, I would like to find like a company that can get me hooked up with like a van, in like, benefits and
Right. Well, I only asked it just because like being at Aldi, like Aldi has like a stock, like retirement program, 401k, which is cool. I bring that up just because that's a great opportunity. And I look back, when I worked at Publix, I didn't participate, which I'm looking back, it was foolish of me not to. It would have been a little money on my paycheck, but in the long run, I would have had something in there. Would have been a lot. But if you find a company that offers a match like that, that's great because it's basically free money, right? I mean, not technically free, but they're giving it to you, but you're not coming up with it. So if you're putting in 5% of your income of your paycheck every month, they're matching it 5%. You're putting in actually 10% towards that retirement vehicle. Now there's tax implications on the back end, but in the front end though, it's going to have a better chance of growing. It'll really compound in the life of you being at the company. So I would definitely say if you have access, then participate. But of course, that's not the case for you right now, Danny. But yeah, in your case, maybe like an IRA, like an individual retirement account might be something that would be of interest because does something similar. You don't have the profit, you don't have the matching ability, but it's growing though long term for you. So yeah, I would say, and again, I hear it. It's really cool. I'm hearing the hunger and the thirst for wanting to know more about it, which is cool because I don't know many 20-year-olds who are like, yeah, I need to get into this. I need to start taking this serious and getting this going because time is of the essence, and when you're young, you got lots of time to take advantage of, which is great. But yeah, this is all good stuff, and I agree. Like real estate is a great place to consider. The only, of course, every investment has a risk to it, right? There's no guarantee. You never know what it's gonna look like at the back end. But we saw 2008. I mean, we're all kind of young to really have felt the effects of that ourselves. But we know the economy was horrible. Housing market crash. I mean, a lot of people lost their jobs. There was a mini recession. It was not great. But we've recovered, as we can see. 12 years later, here we are. We're facing some new challenges, right? But the housing market has been doing really well lately. It's just making sure that we balance that risk with safety too, right? That's the biggest thing I would say is real estate's great, stocks are great, cryptocurrency. Not as familiar with investors and financial people, it's more risk. Pardon me, but it's a new thing too, which not many people are familiar. I mean, people have been into it more, know more about how it works, but on a grand scale, government doesn't know how it works. I mean, financial companies don't really know how it works clearly. So it's but I think it's one of those things that we might see more of that as time goes on. I don't really know personally, but yeah, it's good to be curious. I would say it's good to be open to the possibilities and learning more about what's out there, because I think that's when you really maximize on the time and the potential. Because if you're closed-minded, I want to just do this thing only or that thing only, then okay, well, there might be a better idea out there. There might be another idea that could complement that you might be closing yourself off to. So
for sure,
doing your research, exploring different companies, talking to different people, picking their brain, because then you're going to figure out what works for you, what resonates with your style of investments, or your natural curiosity, or the connection. Like, at the end of the day, I think that's most important is you feel good about who you're working with, you have a connection, you're comfortable, you trust them. That's at the end of the day what's most important, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if I answered your question, but that was...
No, you did. That was good. And I want to ask too, do you know what Acorns is? Or are you familiar with Acorns at all?
Yeah, I haven't dived into it specifically, but I've heard a lot of commercials recently, but it's basically like, correct me if I'm wrong, but like when you use your card, whatever's like the change left over of the full dollar, they put it in like an investment account. I'm not sure what type of investment it is, but it's basically a way to take like your spare change and So that's an option they have. That's called roundups, and that's taking when you swipe your card.
I never heard about that.
It's rounding up. Yeah, it's like taking your spare change, rounding it up to the nearest dollar, and taking that spare change, investing it into the stock market. Now they ask you some questions about how you want to go, if you want to be aggressive or what you want to see. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so that's what I've been doing, and then I also additionally do just it's what is it? It's you can set your amount, but I do like $15 a month or $10 a month to take out on the 5th of every month, where that gets put into it as well.
Okay.
And they offer like a 401k plan, whatever. I don't want to get like fully into what they offer, just because like I said, I'm 22. I'm just kind of looking at looking at all these apps and like putting some money here and there. But this is one, Acorn is one that my friend, one of my best friends, right when we got out of high school and I was getting into cryptocurrency, he told me about it. So what I did was I got it, and then I was always trying to see quick money in my stocks. That's where I'd mess up. And so I got the Acorns app. I signed up for the roundups, I did $5 a month to start. And then I deleted the app off my phone. So I'd never opened it, never did it. So then like years go by and I'm like, oh shit, am I still doing that? Because I saw the charge on my card. I'm like, that's still going on. So I looked at it and it was pretty nice. It was good. So I was like, okay, me being me, I pulled the money out. so I messed up. But then I said, I'm gonna start from fresh. I'm gonna do more and I'm gonna do it. And now I haven't deleted it off my phone, but I've been like searching it, and they have like a projected market of, the money, like they're saying, oh, on this path, because if you do $5 a month on this path, by this age you'll have this amount of money, like, so right. It differs by what you put in. But yeah, that's something that I just, for me, it's like I ultimately want to get like signed or like with someone like you, like when I have a big chunk of money or like whatever, because I want that money to like be like, yo, this is an investment. But everything I've done in the past has just been like, I mean, money's money, don't get me wrong, but everything I've done like leading up to this has just been like, oh, I've got $200, so this is stock money now, and I'm gonna try to buy these, and I've always lost it all. Right. Even the money I've made, it's gone. I mean, it's gone. Whether I profited, I took it out. Like I'm saying, I opened up the Acorns app after years, saw a nice chunk of change. I was like, that's sick. Should have just deleted the app. Bruh, no, I withdrew that.
Bought a dirt bike.
I'm going to spend that. Bought something stupid.
Well, a couple of things you mentioned, Dan. There was 3 things. I think I remember 2. I'll see if I remember the third one. But the first thing is you set up the account, you delete it, forget all about it. Set it, forget it. Mm-hmm. Concept was great because you're not even thinking about it. It's out of sight, out of mind.
Worked good for years.
You got this thing growing. Yeah. It's doing great things. When you notice it, you're like, ooh, I'm going to have some fun with this thing. And oops. So it's one of those things where that's almost the best tool to save and invest, is having a plan or having a set up where something's coming out of your account monthly. You know what it's doing. You don't want to look at it, though, because you know it's going to look great at the end. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or there'll be a better return if you let it go longer. But then you also mentioned, is this thing still charging me years later? Like, it almost is like, man, I don't even realize this thing's going on. So it's almost like, and this is, I'm sure most Americans is, you got so much going on every month. You're not even paying attention to what's coming in and what's going out every month because everything's happening. You're making money. I'm not thinking about it. I'm not worrying about it. So having a budget would be great because you know where your money's going to savings, where it's going to bills, to the fun stuff, to the retirement, all that stuff. So it's all allocated, all has a place. That way you don't have to feel bad about spending money on yourself, because let's be honest, you can't work hard all day and never have fun. You got to have some fun, right? So balancing the long-term savings with investments with bills and fun is important. Knowing where that all goes is probably first and foremost. You mentioned like when I get a bunch of money, I'll put a bunch in. I'll do it like that. Well, true, that might be one way strategy, but if you were able to, like any muscle, think about working out at a gym for the first time, right? You don't go in there like, oh man, I'm gonna go max out on this, like let's go. Usually it takes, okay, let's stretch first, let's get my muscles limber, let's start with 5 pounds, let's do 5 pounds. How's that feel? Okay, cool, do that for a couple weeks, and you're gonna work your way up. And similarly, that's how some of the best plans work financially, is not necessarily waiting until you get a big chunk of money and dump it into something, which could work. Can you carve off a little bit of money each month and put 10, 15, $20 a month into something? Initially, do that for a couple months, do that for a year. Okay, feels good. I got a raise recently. Hey, I got more money coming in. Hey, my wife's got this business growing. Hey, maybe we can put $50 a month. Maybe we can put $100 a month. And now over time, as you grow and as you do that, you discipline yourself. You train that muscle of your mind to say, hey, I can't touch that money. It's going to something. It's going to be looking great. I'm not going to look at it because I know it's going to be working for me if I let it go. It's a discipline thing, and I don't think anyone teaches you that, or even myself. I'm guilty. We're all guilty of that at times, but I think getting into this industry has taught me that. It's like, no, look, we're all guilty of spending. It's so easy to do that, but if I can put a little bit aside every month, just a little bit. I'm not saying like dramatically change your life. So I'm talking like whatever's reasonable, whatever you can do right now. We know that over time you're gonna make more money. We know you're gonna have other sources of income coming in, so that number should keep going up over time to adjust with inflation and your income, right? So I'd say would be the biggest takeaways. If you do something small, like the acorns thing sounds great. Like the roundup thing sounds great because it's something small. Nothing, it probably won't go substantial over time, but if you're able to dump more into that over time, then you've developed the muscle. You've grown over time as you have the funds to do so. That's the thing. As being fiduciaries, we would never want you to do anything that's out of your means. We have to look at the whole picture. That's why that first meeting is pretty comprehensive. We want to understand what's the objectives, what's the numbers we have to work with, what's comfortable for you that's not going to change your lifestyle, and that's what we'd start with. And as we grow together, as we work together, we would obviously need to go up because you need to plan for the future and plan for that retirement, whatever the goal is,
For sure. So when you personally in your job, like when you link with someone like my age or Brian's age, our age, is that a long-term link or like are you hoping for it to be like where you can like watch this person grow and watch their money?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's another thing is our firm Northwestern Mutual, we're comprehensive planners, so it's not that some companies, again, everyone's different how they run their businesses. I'm not here to judge, but we're big on relationships, right? So when we're meeting with you, it's not just, hey, let's sign your product and never talk to us again. It's going to be a relationship. We'll check in with you twice a year, once a year. Shoot, if you have a question, hey, Mr. William, I got a question. Hey, call me middle of the night. Call me whenever. Hey, I got a question. Do it. That's what we're here for. So, that's the goal, is to make sure we're advocates, because you're going to see a lot of things on the internet. You're going to hear a lot of things from friends, and it's like, well, what do I believe? I don't know. I don't know what should I be doing, right? So having someone who's in the space who understands it, I think, is probably the most valuable thing you can have in your corner, because I think the internet can be very conflicting, because you read one thing on one side, then you read another thing on the other side. It's like, well, what the heck's the truth? I have no idea. And it's so hard nowadays with what's going on in the election. We got a lot of censoring, a lot of things happening. It's like, well, I don't know what to believe anymore. Just tell me the truth. I don't want to know the truth, But it's hard. So yeah, I would say, yeah, absolutely. Like when I work with people, it's okay. Are you thinking long term? Are you thinking like you're growing? You see yourself growing? Do you see yourself being successful? I mean, we want to work with you. I mean, we don't want to just sign you up and forget about you, right?
Yeah.
The idea is we're only as good as we only do well if you do well. That's really how we operate. Is if we're able to put you in a better place financially, then at the end of the day, that makes me feel great. And I mean, I get a little commission of that, but at the end of the day, helping people is what really, like I mentioned at the beginning, was what drives me to do this. So
yeah, and I
awesome.
had a question on that note, because I do remember you saying that part of what brought you to teaching is you do enjoy helping people. You enjoy like going that extra mile to improve someone's life in some way or to help them. And I do remember you saying through in our skate session the other day, and just through our conversations over the last couple of months, you saying you're kind of trying to focus more on yourself, like self-care, self-love and stuff like that, because you've dedicated so much of your life to helping other people and whatnot. What tips would you have because I feel like everyone needs to work on this. What tips would you have to someone our age or any age to kind of embrace that and really like not only care for yourself financially like we've been talking about, but just to care about yourself in general? You know what I mean?
Sure. No, that's so huge, especially with someone like myself who, like I said, I'm, as you've both seen, very giving personality, which is fine. I think that's a great way to be. Not everyone's like that, which is fine. But I think, right, ultimately, it's look at the analogy like when you fly on a plane, right? Please put on your mask first before other people's, right? You don't want to pass out in the meantime of how to help someone else. Take care of yourself. It's the same principle, right? So something I don't think either of you know of yet, but I recently read this great book. Not that I'm trying to put a plug out for this, but I'm sure he wouldn't mind, the author. Book's called Morning Miracle, and a friend of mine challenged me to read it. It's by Hal Elrod, and basically the principle, I won't get into too much of the weeds, but basically the idea is get up an hour early every day. Don't dramatically change your lifestyle, but whatever. If you get up at 8 o'clock, get up at 7. If you get up at 7, get up at 6, and spend an hour of time to take care of yourself. Read a self-improvement book. Do a little workout. Do a little jog. Do a little skating. Think about what you want to achieve in life. Visualize your successes. Visualize the kind of person you want to be 20, 30, 40 years. Visualize the goals you want to achieve. Breathe. How important is breathing? I mean, we're so busy. Stress, the world, the economy, president, job, We're not breathing. We're freaking out. We're anxious. So breathing, waking up in the morning, breathing, just giving your body oxygen, giving your body life, expressing gratitude, being thankful. We have a lot of things that are crazy we're not thankful for, but being thankful for the little things, the podcast, our family, our friends, our ability to skate. So I've been doing that for the last couple of weeks, and I will say it's dramatically, I have so much energy now. I have more focus. I have more drive. I thought I had a great drive all the time, but when you take care of yourself first thing in the morning, like you can really just expend yourself. You can really give as much as you need to, and you're not feeling like you're like, oh, I never took care of myself today. Like that's, and I've got to the point now where I'm 32 and I've got a family, and the things I did in my 20s. I mean, I might have done more things on my own because I was single and I could do that. But things that bring me passion and excitement with my family are my kids, my wife. So really, when I get home, I'm there. It's like I'm there to help them and be with them and take care of them. So that's why I think for me it's hard to take care of myself. If all day I'm working and then the evening I'm with my family, then I'm going to bed because I'm tired after that. So if I do it first thing in the morning, you know it gets done. You take care of yourself first. You prioritize you, and that allows you to have the freedom to do whatever needs to happen. And usually when you start your day off right like that, the rest of the day falls into place and you get everything done. You're just so much more productive. That's what I've found anyway. I've only been this for a month, a couple weeks now, but once I got the book, I'd recommend it. It's definitely helped me out a lot. Even though,
You said it's called Morning Miracle?
The Morning Miracle. Yep. It's by a guy who was he was a Cutco, very successful Cutco salesman. Had a life-changing injury, made him rethink the way he needed to do things. I don't want to give away too much, as you should probably read it. But anyway, the gist of the book is he's gone through some hardships, recovered from both of them, done something really amazing with his passion and drive to be great. And that morning miracle, that morning ritual of getting up early is just, let's face it, no one wants to get up early. No one wants to get up an hour early. Why I need to sleep, But one thing I'll share real quick, it's in the book, but it's something that's it hit me hard. It's really powerful. I think we can all relate to this. Like, how many times do you go to bed, and it's late, whatever, it's 11, 12 o'clock, and you're like, oh, man, I gotta get up at 5. I don't want to get up at 5. I'm tired. I'm gonna be tired. Like, you start psychologically telling yourself, I'm gonna be tired. So what happens when you wake up? I can't wake up. It's only at 5 hours. Snooze. So that was a big part of that mindset is no. Go to bed saying, no matter how many hours it is, I'm thankful for these 5 hours. 5 hours is all I need to have a great day. I'm going to have a great day tomorrow. Let's make it happen.
Yeah.
You go to bed, you have a great night's sleep, you wake up, and you have that same mindset. You're not thinking, initially it's going to take time to shift that to, I got to get up. Eventually you're going to start doing, okay, time to get up. Go. Do your morning miracle and get on with your day.
Yeah.
Like, it's the weirdest thing. Lately I've struggled a little bit. I've been getting up still, but not right away. Like a week ago, it was like clockwork. It was the weirdest thing. Like, the alarm went off. I literally walked over to the alarm clock, shut it off, and I started going. I started getting myself done. I'm like, whoa. And I didn't even think. Didn't even blink.
Yeah.
But of course, the days will be easier and some days will be harder.
Sure.
It's a discipline thing, right? So it takes time to develop that habit, but huge. I would highly recommend to anybody. And it doesn't have to be, like, I'm getting up at 4 in the morning, but it may be like 5, maybe 6.
Yeah.
It could even be later in the day. That's some people, like, talking to a guy, he basically works from like the evenings, and he gets up like at 10, 11 o'clock. So it's like most people are having lunch at that point. He's getting up for the first time. So maybe it's later in the day, or maybe it's at lunchtime.
Yeah.
And so check the book out. It's awesome. I think you would learn a lot and might change your lifestyle.
Yeah, no, we'll check it out. I'm all about that, especially the morning routine. I think that's huge.
And giving yourself something to look forward to, like when you go to bed. Like, I always notice, isn't it weird how when you have like a field trip the next day, it doesn't matter if you only got or Christmas or something. Yes. You could get 3 hours of sleep, but right when you wake up, you're like, Christmas, and you just get right up and you're just awake.
Woo!
Yeah,
exactly.
I think every day can be like that. It's just a mindset.
Give yourself if you do something for that hour that you enjoy, then you'll wake up thinking like, okay, I get to do this before I go to work. You know what I mean? Especially with skating.
Yeah,
Did you have something you were going to say? I feel like I cut you off.
Well, I was just going to say, we've been going for a minute. We should probably wrap it up. But I feel like we just scratched the surface. Like, this guy got me fired up. Like, as far as the whole business, the second half of this conversation. I know it probably bored out some listeners, but the ones who stuck through and are listening now are like, the entrepreneurs, the CEOs of the world.
People who need this information.
Yeah, like this was huge. I feel like I've learned a lot. Like, just even talking right here, just like the things I would say, what you'd combat with. I'm like, I'm breaking the surface on over here. But on a lighter note, I want to ask, have you ever gotten someone say that you look like a celebrity? And like, what's your celebrity look like? Because I got one right off the bat
go ahead.
for you.
And I've got a bunch. How about
Jake Gyllenhaal?
Oh my gosh!
Every day of your life, it has to be.
Dude, I never put 2 and 2 together until just now.
So I've gotten him before. I've gotten when my hair is longer, it's not so gelled up, and it's more shaggy. I got the Matthew McConaughey look, and also once or twice, maybe once, back when that "Walk the Moon" song. Don't you dare look back, just keep your eyes up. Shut up. That song that guy's, you like that lead singer from that band. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So, no, that's funny you mentioned that, Danny. I've had people tell me that before. And actually more times than McConaughey, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I was like, at one point in the interview, I was like, whoa. I was like, man.
Mystery solved.
The last question that I'll ask, we interview lots of people here. We have talks with artists, entrepreneurs, musicians, teachers, like everyone. Do you have one name off the top of your head that you would like to see come in here and talk with us?
Oh, that's a tough question, Brian. Jeez, I could think of anybody.
We are getting Caleb in a couple of weeks.
Cool.
He's coming by.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, perfect sequence, baby. Yeah,
Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah, he'd be a great person to talk to for sure.
Do you know of any athletes around, like athletes you know of that are just super respectable that might be a good conversation? Because we haven't had many athletes. We've had MMA fighters. We haven't really had like.
It's true.
Oh my gosh, I just really linked up with a student of mine, but I think he's heading out west. But maybe you could work with him. But he's played baseball for a long time. He was He was actually scouted, had offers to go to play college ball when I taught him at Cape, and he kind of declined the offer. But he's been working. But they just got it re-offered again because he's been playing like travel ball. He's been playing like in leagues. He's been keeping up with the skills. And he's got another offer. So I think he's heading out west, California. But great guy. I think he'd be a great person to chat with in terms of just adversity, struggling with things, and coming to find himself and overcoming challenges and growing and doing something great. His name is Spencer. I'll see if I can get you in touch with him, but to see if it's even possible to meet up before he goes. If anything, maybe doing it remote or maybe when he comes back to visit family.
Yeah, for sure.
I have a brother who's a pilot.
That'd be interesting.
He's a couple years younger than me. I mean, he's a different mindset, different frame of mind, but he's successful, I would say, in his career and what he's doing for the country. He's, again, pilot, so he's does a lot of cool missions throughout the year with different things around the country, but
that's awesome. See, even something like that would like pique my interest. So like I'd be so intrigued just because like I would love to sit down with anybody because everyone has like a different form of life and like it's just every conversation
is worth having. Yeah. It's not a coincidence we're all in the same room right now. Is there anything you would want to plug? Like we usually give people the opportunity to like plug their Instagram or YouTube channels.
Yeah, maybe drop their email because there might be people after this conversation wondering just how they can.
Well, yeah, just first of all, thank you guys for having me. This has been wonderful.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
Not only to reconnect, but really to be able to just have a conversation about life and just kind of talk as guys, talk as friends and brothers. My family, of course, my wife Phyllis, my kids Juliana, Giada, and Giorgio now. Just so thankful for them and their health, and that I get to be their daddy and their husband, my wife's husband. And yes, I work with Northwestern Mutual. My email address is william.guarno at N as in November, M as in Mike.com. I'd love to see if I can help or be a resource, at least share some ideas with you. Hit me up. I don't have a Facebook or a LinkedIn or a LinkedIn, but that's like not cool. Instagram handle, Snapchat handle.
Until you're skating the vert ramp, then you're starting a vlog channel.
There you go. Then I'll start plugging. Then I'll start hashtagging. Thanks again, guys.
Yeah, no worries.
Where can they find us at, bro?
You can find us at City of Palms Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, anywhere you listen to podcasts. We got new episodes coming every Monday. Hit us up for the shirts. $20, but if you've listened to this episode, I got a special discount code, so hit me up.
And if you want to see skateboarding content, I'm sure there'll be skating content with Will here on our YouTube channel, so stay tuned for that.
Cool.
Hit him with the outro, Sorn.